This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz Geiger. I'm chairman of the Darien ARB. Tonight, we are commencing our special meeting of the Architectural Review Board for Tuesday, July 21st, 7 p.m. In attendance, we have Sherry Green, Marion Castell, Allison Hughes, Leslie McAlee, David Riley, David Humphrey, and Sean Brown taking notes. Moving right to business. Actually, let me do one protocol check before. I say this every time. Let me be clear again. Whenever you speak tonight, say your name every time, even if it's to say one word, even if you just spoke, you must say your name every time. All right, with that said, we're gonna start off with ARB number 13, 2020. This is Make Modern. We reviewed this in our last meeting and put it back on the agenda because there wasn't anyone to speak on it. I'm looking across the board and seeing if Kevin Kane is here to speak.
No,
Kevin?
Liz, this is Dave Keating. And in the letter that I wrote to Kevin Kane, I indicated that per the ARB's discussion at the last meeting, they had to remove those two art panels to the right and to the left of the name before we would be willing to discuss it again at this meeting. And they have not removed those art mural pieces. And so when I spoke to the business operator today, I said, tonight's it's on the agenda, but there will be no discussion of the merits of the application.
So are we postponing the application for the next meeting? Are we dismissing it, or are we writing them an unfavorable report?
This is Dave Keating again. I think we should probably just put it on the agenda for a future meeting, and we will try to work with them to get it into compliance so that then we can discuss the merits of the application.
All right. Got it. Okay, Liz Geiger here again. Okay, thanks, Dave Keating.
You're welcome.
Then that sums up ARB number 13, 2020. We will discuss, and Sean Brown, please note that we will be pushing that back again to our September meeting.
Sean, it's done.
All right, moving on, we have ARB number 15, 2020. We are discussing, you know what, let me give you both. We have ARB number 15, 2020 and ARB number 18, 2020. They are both covering applicant Rvu Bd. And, sorry, give me a second. They're both covering the applicant Rvu Bd, and I believe Michael Brenna is here to speak on that. We're first going to discuss their awning proposal and then their proposal for outdoor seating. ARB members, you should all be familiar with this from our last meeting where we discussed it with Michael, I think Tarantino, who was the representative at the time. So Brennan, I believe you're on now.
Yeah, hi. I believe Michael Terranova is going to be going over the sign.
Okay, so whoever wants to speak, introduce yourself each time you speak, and then you can give us a very quick overview again to bring us up to speed, and then let's go down the list of items you want to approve.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Terranova from ABC Sign, presenting the signage. It's actually the entire signage package for Rvu Bd. So it's the exterior storefront letter set, which is acrylic letters, which are going on an existing transom at the storefront on the post road. And that's on page 1 that I presented. They're 11 inches high by 86 inches total width, length. The storefront is 20 feet linear. So they're allowed 6.6 square footage of signage. We are presenting 6.57. Which is almost maxed. So you can see in the rendering, I presented it in a photo and in the architectural drawing as well. So it's very clean with the black transom and then the white lettering. The second one is the blade sign, which is 24 inches by 36 inches. We're proposing 6 square feet. We're allowed 7 square feet. And that's also presented in the photo, and that would flag the main entrance off the post road. We're also presenting vinyl lettering for the glass door and
Michael,
for
you know what? I'm sorry, Liz Geiger, can I interrupt you a second? Do you know that the specifications for the height of that, of the blade sign from where it height off the ground?
yes, your max height is to the blade sign, max height is 12 feet and minimum height is 7 feet.
Okay.
Sorry, I did have the measurements, but I didn't specify that from the code.
So the bottom of the sign will be 7 feet from the ground?
No, actually, I have it drawn as 9 feet, only because there is a step up from at that entrance, so it's just going to be elevated a little bit higher than the 7 feet. I'm proposing 9 feet,
Okay.
but we're still under the maximum height that we can go. And then just the vinyl lettering for the transom above the door, which is the address of the storefront, which is 879. And then the Barvita logo in on the glass door, and these will be both white vinyl lettering. And then, of course, everybody's familiar with the awning that's at the rear entrance. So I've drawn it onto a photo to show everybody a little perspective on how it would, aesthetically be placed. Same measurements, same design as originally presented. We're hoping to go across the whole storefront, the rear of the store, just in case, there's presented a bench there. I believe the bench is existing. It's a concrete bench, and if anybody wants to sit there with their juice, they'll be covered. So I also put together a plan showing the parking area. I believe there's 3 parking lots behind those stores that are on the post road. And as you can see, there's, the rear parking. And then I show on the right side, as you come from the upper parking levels, you can visually see the store. And adding the awning would definitely draw more attention to the store, and which is what I think Brendan wants, because it is actually going to be the main entrance, as there's a lot of parking back there, a lot more than the post road. So it should actually be dressed up as the main entrance. And so that's what we were presenting. And then after that, I showed a couple other signs that are for the neighboring tenants. There are some awnings. I believe Coldwell Banker has an awning. And then there's just some other just wall mounted signs.
That's great. Liz Geiger here. Michael, that's great. I really appreciate you presenting us with these different perspectives so we can get a whole idea of what this looks like per our feedback.
Right. And then I also presented some photos of black awnings that are existing on the post road. And I know that a number of them have been up for 5 or more years. I know the one on the bottom right, actually the 2 bottom photos are on Corbin and Post, and those were there when I would say probably 10 years, those black awnings.
Good.
So just showing that the black does not fade. It's made with the material we're presenting is Sunbrella, which does have a UV coating which will protect it against those UV rays.
And Sean, Liz Geiger, sorry, not Sean, Michael, Liz Geiger here. Last question. The lettering on the Sunbella fabric is vinyl, painted vinyl, is that correct?
It's actually be painted. It's a painted acrylic. It's the only thing that will bond to the awning material. So it's hand stenciled paint. Because of the material, because it's also fire retardant, so nothing really bonds to the awning, so it has to be painted.
Great, okay, and Liz Geiger again. And Michael, I think I'm gonna have you continue with this. I think part of your whole proposal would be nice to hear your outdoor seating continued with this. I think hearing it all together might paint a great full picture. So do you wanna go ahead and talk about that as well?
I think Brennan is going to take over for that. He is the owner of Barvita, and he's the one that's presenting the outdoor seating.
Okay,
Yeah, hi, this is Brennan. I just want to make sure you guys can you guys see my screen? I just want to make sure.
we can ask Fred to do a screen share for you. 1 second
Okay.
here.
Yeah, because I might have to quit the application in order to do it. I got a notification. So if you could do that, Fred, I believe it's in your email. And I can
Yeah,
just
I'll
sort of.
put it up for you, Brennan. This is Fred Donite.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
And Brennan, this is Liz Geiger here. When you do start talking, can you give us your full name and your relation to the company? Give us a full introduction to yourself, please, for the record.
Okay. So this is Brennan Branca, the owner, Barvita Juice Bar Cafe. So doing a quick proposal here. So the whole building, 879 Post Road, there's an alleyway between that and the building adjacent to it, which is the Caldwell Banker building. It's about 900 square feet. I've spoken to the owner of the building, Frank Almazri, and we've spoken. I'm proposing to take up around 270 square feet of that alleyway. So 270 of the 900. Enclosed, we will have, which you'll see later on the presentation, planters that are spaced out so people can walk through them so you're not boxing people in, and 5 tables. We will have a maximum of 12 seats. All the tables are 6 feet apart. In addition to that, we are only going 9 feet into the alleyway, of the 15 feet. So we're leaving a 6-foot social distance walkway between the rear parking lot and the post road. So if you go to the next slide, Fred, please. Yeah, just one more.
Just a little bit of a delay in this. Hold on.
Okay.
Brennan, Liz Geiger, while that's coming up, I'm going to ask you a follow-up is the materials and colors of all these tables and chairs.
Okay, yeah. So this is Brennan Branca again. So again, on the last page of this, you'll get a visual idea of what it is, the aspect. But so here, so what we're proposing is a sort of dark, sort of modern, sort of bringing the building into the more modern age. Across the street, you can see Heights Pizza, that sort of darker color. So our main colors are black and gold. It's a higher end looking, like very sophisticated sort of Equinox vibe looking things. We'll have black and green planters as you see before. The cafe barriers will actually be spaced out. They will not be connected like that. They would be black. And the reason for spacing them out is so that people can walk freely between them. So you're not boxing people in, because we want to stick to the social distance guidelines. So it's really just bringing an earthy green, a little bit of brown tones into this outside space to sort of mirror our inside space, which is on the next slide. But again, 5 tables, all 6 feet apart, maximum of 12 seats. Leaving a 6-foot walkway in between the rear parking lot and the post road so people can constantly, no matter how they're figured, stay 6 feet apart from each other, which going forward, even as the restrictions, get lifted, I think that's something that we want to ensure that we're still doing, right, and keeping the safety first. So here is an inside rendering of the juice bar. So you can tell it's, it's clean. It's got, a little bit of black, gold, green. So we want to mirror that and kind of create a organic indoor outdoor sort of living experience in that 270 square feet. I really think that it'll help liven up downtown Darien, especially that side of it. And honestly, it'll encourage people in the future to spend more time outdoors instead of being congested inside. And as I've said, we've done all the measurements. We know that we can have these 5 tables 6 feet apart. so we would be staying within, social distance guidelines. So yeah, that's pretty much it, to put it pretty briefly.
All right, Liz Geiger here again, not Michael, I'm sorry, Brennan. Can you recap for us the materials and colors of the chairs and tables on the outside?
Yes, this is Brennan Bronca again. So we want to have black tables or gray tables with umbrellas stemming from the center. So maybe a dark gray tables or black tables with black plant barriers and black cafe barriers, right? So we could do all black cafe barriers with gray tables and then black umbrellas. And I also want to just stress that we would be making no structural changes to the building. There would be no drilling, there would be no digging into the ground, no attaching anything to the existing building. This is something that could literally be put up in a week, and it could be taken down, so it's not a major ordeal. We're not pouring concrete, we're not doing anything. So we just want to have 5 tables with umbrellas, black or gray, and then black and green planters spaced out so people can walk freely in between, so they're not boxed in. And then you have those cafe barriers single style, right? So instead of having them connected, which encloses people and kind of makes people closer together, we want to have them separate so we can, place them and just kind of create a more open space, flowy area.
Okay, Brennan, Liz Geiger again, 2 more questions about that. The umbrellas, are you proposing plain black umbrellas, no logo? And then my second question is the chair color and material.
So initially I proposed black umbrellas. I mean, obviously, ideally for my sake, it would be great to have a logo on it. It doesn't need to be on every single one of them. It could just be on the one facing the street, only because this space isn't directly next to my juice bar. It's sort of on the other side of the building. So I would, ideally want people to make the connection that it's my sort of seating area. And ideally I had black, like your black metal square tables with chairs, with black chairs on each side with the holes in the middle, sort of like the ones you see outside of Starbucks and the one that hair salon right next to Starbucks. But I mean, ideally, yes, I would love to have my logo on them, or at least one, so people can identify it as a Bd sort of seating area.
Okay, Liz Geiger here again. If that's it, that's great, Brennan. Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the board for comments, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Brian, thank you.
Okay, we're going to start in order. First, Sherry Green, and then Marion.
Brennan, I like everything that you've presented. I also would encourage to have the name on the umbrellas so that you tie the 2 spaces together. Otherwise, I think, it's kind of disjointed. I would love to see the name on, one of the umbrellas, or somehow connect the 2 spaces so people are drawn into that. But congratulations, I think it looks like a really good idea.
This is Brennan. Thank you very much. Yes, I mean, I appreciate your kind words. Yeah, it's been a lot of work, and I think it's going to come out really well. And yes, I mean, I'd love to have my logo everywhere. Do you know what I mean? I've plastered all over the place. So whatever, I'm okay with getting away with, I'll take it. But yeah, I agree. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
All right, thanks, Sherry. Next up is Marion, and then Allison.
Marion Castell, I think it looks very, very good. And I like your presentation. And I wonder, how late are you going to be open? Are you going to be open in the evening at all?
This is Brennan Bronca again. Yeah, I would love to be open in the evening. We saw next to Cafe Neat, there's that little outdoor seating area. People were staying there last year, sitting outside, enjoying a cup of coffee, even, October, November. And so I would like to stay open later, about 8 or 9 p.m., just to give people that experience, right? They can have a cup of coffee. I mean, we are in, 100% organic, 100% plant-based cafe, not just a juice bar. So we'll have a full coffee bar. We'll have food, really healthy food, really tasty food. And so I would love to be open late. Yeah, maybe 8 or 9 p.m.
That brings up the question of lighting.
Yes.
Did I miss that? Did you, I mean, outdoor lighting, if you want to have something, and you want lighting for a variety of reasons on your structure. And then maybe if you have your drinking juice or whatever, you might want something that would be part of the tables or do whatever it is to create something inviting.
This is Brennan again. Yes. So the lighting, you can do a few things. You can do your standard, you know, those like heaters, those space heaters. They're kind of triangular. They're metal. They're kind of elegant looking. So you at Santa they have those. So you can do something like that where it's just a standard lamp post, or you could do something where Heights Pizza did across the street, where you could do string lights. I think that string lights kind of create a nice ambiance. I think it kind of creates a nice organic outdoor feeling, which is obviously the vibe that we're trying to create. To be quite honest with you, I haven't nailed down how exactly I want to do the lighting, but we're not going to be putting anything, into the building. I'm not going to be attaching any gooseneck lighting, anything like that. It would be something pretty, pretty basic.
Light over the front door or something, perhaps, right? On the post road.
This is Brennan again. What do you
I'm
mean?
sorry. Well, this is Marion Castell again. I'm sorry. Would you have lighting over the post road front door, to indicate that people coming in, it's dark, about the doorway?
This is Brennan. Yes, we have those two gooseneck lamps
Yeah,
for
all right.
the front of the store. Yeah, so those will be on, and it'll let people know that we're open. And those don't shine into the middle of the street, so they're not going to distract cars or anything, which is great. But yeah.
Okay, that does it for me. I think it looks well.
This is Brennan. Thank you so much.
Here. Oh, this is Liz Geiger here. Thanks, Marion. Brennan, I will take a note on that. If you guys are gonna put some sort of light fixture, even if it's string lighting or something in that alleyway, you'll need to come back to us with that. And if we could start with a simple context of just approving it and reviewing it digitally over email instead of you having to come to another meeting. But if it's if it's complex plan and it needs further discussion, then we put it on our agenda. But whatever lighting, if there's new lighting being proposed, you got to come back.
This is Brennan. Okay, great. I mean, now that I have you guys here, would just simple like black lamps would that be something that you guys would be okay with? I'm not trying to blow this out. I'm not doing spotlights. After dark, I don't anticipate too many people being there anyway, so it's not like we would need floodlights. So we're not going to do anything, any super complicated thing at all. I mean, would you approve string lights?
It's Liz Geiger here. Let me keep going down the line, and it's a good question to ask to the remaining members, and the ones we've already gone by, we can circle back with them if they have an opinion to add. So next up would be Allison Hughes, and then Leslie.
I think everything you proposed looks great. I was wondering, do you have a logo, or is it simply your whole name, the Barbita?
This is Brennan Bronca. So if you look at the rendering, Fred, I don't know if, I hope you can hear me. If you could go down to just that last slide. Yeah, so that is our logo, actually, the rounded rectangle with the Cinzel, all capital letters, Barbita, period, kind of like the Vince clothing brand logo. It's just the name with the period, just simple. I didn't want to go crazy. That B on the bottom, by the way, is just something cute that we put together, but the official logo is just the rounded edge rectangle with the name and a period in the inside.
Allison Hughes again. I was just going to suggest that if it was not allowed for you to put your full name on the umbrellas, that possibly if you had a logo, you could use that. In terms of the lighting, is there security lighting in that little alleyway now anyhow?
This is Brennan. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would have to check.
Okay. And Allison Hughes again, one other thing is I think you would want to supply a trash receptacle, and I know you picked everything else out with great care, so I would assume you would pick that out as well.
This is Brennan. Yes, yes, of course. Yeah, we will definitely be, you know, have some place where people can recycle and throw out their garbage.
That's it.
Thanks, Allison. Next up is Leslie, and then Dave Riley.
Leslie McCauley, I'm thrilled to see that this space is being used because it has been needed to be filled with something. I would suggest string lights. Another question I had was who is going after hours? I know that Gopher has outdoor seating, but what about bringing chairs in or bringing the umbrellas in? Also, is this only for Bar Vita customers? Let's say there was, I don't know, from the pizza shop across the street, could they come over and use the furniture? And then who's going to maintain, you know, sweep, keep it clean of leaves and whatnot?
This is Brennan Branca. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I really hope that it'll, you know, bring life to that building and, you know, that side of town. Trying to remember all the questions here. With regards to cleaning, I mean, I will just have an employee do that, right? We'll do that every single day, you know, to keep it clean and make sure that there's no trash there, you know, picking up the trash, putting it away, or sweeping off the leaves. With regards to the seating, I'm super like inclusive. You know, I would love for you know, for anybody to sit there, right? I mean, if you have, you know, a mom or a dad dropping their child off to get a haircut, you know, I would love for them to be able to go get a juice or a, you know, an acai bowl or anything like that, and then come and sit in that area. You know, the only thing is, which is my question, is if I have my logos on the umbrellas, would that mean that only Bar Vita customers could sit there? I mean, I want everybody to sit there, right? I want to bring life to the town. I want everybody to come out, right, and stay, you know, socially distanced, but I want everybody to experience it. I want everybody to be able to reconnect with each other after all this quarantine in a nice, healthy way. So, I mean, the ideal situation would be for everybody to come, right? I mean, and then with the umbrellas in the tables, whatever you guys would require, you know, I mean, if you guys say that they need to come in every night, then I'll find a way to make that happen. Or if they stay out there, then, you know, they, like, I'm not sure what Heights Pizza does across the street. But, you know, I'm very flexible. I can make it work, you know, to whatever your sort of guidelines are. I hope that answers all your questions. I can't remember the other one.
Leslie, yes, thank you. Oh, string lights.
Oh, yes, this is Brandon again. Yeah, I mean, string lights are awesome. Like, it's a very like LA, Southern California, juice, healthy lifestyle vibe that we have going on. So I think that the string lights would certainly play into that. And also they're super easy to do. So that was sort of, and they also don't take up space on the ground, right? So you don't have this massive lamp post coming up. So yeah, that's like 99.999% what I would be doing. So.
Liz Geiger here. Thanks, Brennan. Thanks, Leslie. David Riley, and then Dave Humphrey.
Dave Riley speaking here. Yes, a nice presentation. Thank you, Brennan. Question on the width of the planters. You said you had 6 feet, but that's not 6 feet clear because the planters actually encroach into that 6 feet. I'm a little concerned if they're like a 2 foot wide planter, you really only effectively have 4 feet of walking area. That's one point. Another point is on the rear awning, and I apologize if I missed something on the last meeting. One exception I would have with the rear awning is the use of the pediment. I think it, you know, provides a nice contrast to an otherwise kind of disjointed rear elevation in that parking lot. I think just having Bar Vita on the lower, you know, the little vertical portion of a straight awning would clean it up a little bit. Right now, it seems a little busy with that little pediment put into it. I know it's to draw attention to where the entry is, but I think if the lettering is put where the entry is, and the lighting, you know, presumably if you're, you know, open at night, will direct people to the door leading into the space. So I think the pediment and the little jog in that awning actually detract a little bit from that piece of garment architecture that's being added onto the facade. And then one other thing is on the materials that were given to us, I had bike racks as one of the pieces that might be employed. And again, you hadn't mentioned it, so is that something that's just maybe going to be incorporated? And if it is there a designated spot, and is there any zoning or regulatory considerations with having a bike rack? Say somebody riding their bike down that 6-foot path to put it into a bike rack could be a little problematic. So those are my points. Thank you.
This is Brennan. Yeah, so I mean, I personally, I mean, I like the arch and the awning in the back, but you know, ultimately it doesn't, you know, it's not make or break for me. So you know, it's one of the, it's sort of, if you guys will allow it, then I'll take it. But if it's not, then that's okay. You know, I just think the awning itself, you know, would be great. I think that draws attention to the space. It's not really hard to see where the opening is. I don't think that people are going to be lost. So you know, that's on that. And then with regards to the planters, so just by looking at it right now, there's a couple of solutions. One is you could keep the same amount of square footage, but just make it narrower and sort of stretch it out a little bit longer. So you're taking those two end tables and taking them closer towards the existing circles, which are actually planters. It sort of feeds into our thing. The other thing is you could reduce the amount of planters to, right, so you could stretch it, and then the other thing you could do is you could, instead of having 3 planters along that side, you could have 2 spaced in between the 3 tables, so they're sort of in line with the tables. You see what I'm saying? So then you're not adding another 2 feet in addition to the tables. You know, that's sort, you know. The other thing is you could only have planters on the ends, and you could just do cafe barriers that have built-in planters in them, which is super cool. They just sort of hook onto the top. They're about like 5 inches tall, and you can just plant little tiny flowers in them. And then those are like 1.5 inches wide, right? So like you could just go from table to table with those, and then it actually becomes a 7-foot walkway. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I see your point there. I definitely don't want to crowd that space. It's important to me to keep that 6 feet distance so people can walk from the post road to the rear parking lot, especially because people in Darien know that there's a rear parking lot there. With the bike racks, yeah, I mean, with all these people riding bikes now, it'd be ideal to have a bike rack, but I haven't actually quite figured out the best way to put it. My thought was to put it in the back, you know, in between sort of the existing planter and that last table on the left. But as you said, you know, you don't really want traffic, right? Like, let's say people are like passing each other on a bike. You don't, yeah, you know, that's not really what you want. So that wasn't you know, it wasn't one of the most important things to me to have the bike rack. Also, a lot of bikes have kickstands, so it's, you know, but I mean, ideally, if I could find a space to put a bike rack in the future, I'd love to have one. I just haven't nailed it down where exactly I would want to put it, and like the safest place to put it, right?
Yeah. Dave Riley speaking again. I think the bike rack would be a nice thing. I'm just pointing out a consideration, and also presumably people would be wise enough, or at least socially conscious enough, to walk their bike on the sidewalk, but not always the case. In regards to the planters, your response on the planters, I think the idea of doing the cafe barrier along the walkway is good. I don't think you need, you know, the small square planter posts of the barrier wouldn't encroach as much into the 6 foot. I don't think you'd have to lose that foot from the seating area. I think if the barrier kind of established that demarcation between the walking space and the seating space with openings that are appropriately spaced to get in there, I think that would be effective. And then having the planters on the ends give it kind of a nice sort of a bookend of greenery. So I think there's an opportunity there. It might even save you on buying a few planters. So again, it's just it's an observation, just to help guide you along in terms of the best kind of scenario for designing that space. And then in terms of the awning, again, my opinion, but I think having a cleaner awning would just make it a little bit more elegant back there.
This is Brennan Bronca again. Okay, yeah, that's great. You know, they make those cafe barriers connect to each other, right? So they can just link in. I can just buy 2 individual ones, link them in, so you sort of have a straight line, and then on the end. Also, by the way, that you don't have to buy like 2-foot wide cafe barriers. They make them in all different sizes. So I'll keep that in mind and try to get like kind of more straight, not super wide ones, so they don't encroach on that on the sidewalk. And while I have you guys, there's actually one more thing that I wanted to just try out. The color. So we have like a dark modern theme. So like the black and gold, like kind of reverse color Apple Store vibes, reverse color Equinox vibes. The existing building 879. I was wondering if there was any chance that I could sort of paint that in a darker gray, more of like a charcoal color, kind of like the Heights Pizza across the street. I think that darker tone mixed with the green that we're gonna have in the planters and and like the plants that we have in the barriers, I think that would really, it would very much mirror the space that we have inside. And quite honestly, the color of that building is like a really old pink, which I mean, pink is nice, but it's a little outdated. So I think it would just really help make it look a lot better as well.
Brennan, it's Liz Geiger here. So you're proposing to paint the whole front of the building as well in a dark gray and along with white trim, and what color shutters? What's the whole proposal?
So what I had just mentioned was actually just that side of the alleyway, just my side, just that wall in a dark. However, I do have a rendering and a quote from a painter who will paint the entire building almost a similar color, a little bit lighter than the Heights Pizza across the street. I can also send you guys that rendering. It looks awesome. It's like black shutters. It's like a light gray facade on the front of the building. It looks super new and modern. It's awesome. And then, so there's sort of 2 things going on. I mean, I would ideally like to paint the building gray, a lighter gray with black shutters. But then the side of it, I would also like to paint, right, my side, not the Caldwell Banker side. And I have renderings and a quote, and I can show that to you. I really, I mean, the landlord was crazy about it. Really sort of bring it into the modern age, and that coupled with this new sort of trendy juice bar, organic vibe cafe with this outside seating, I think it would become sort of like an epicenter of that side of town. And not only drive this to me, but to everybody around me, right? I think it would just kind of help stir up.
Okay, I'm gonna keep us moving here. I'm gonna cut you off a little bit there, Brennan. Got you. Dave Riley, can you comment quickly, wrap up with your thoughts on the painting and also your thoughts on string lights and an umbrella logo?
Dave Riley here. I have no exceptions to the string lights or the logo on the umbrella. It would be nice to see a layout on the string lights, but I think if done sensitively, they would kind of be a nice complement to otherwise an alleyway. Regarding the painting the facade, I think that's something that has to, I would almost think that's another application altogether, and something that the landlord would have to be on board and sign off. And I think there's a lot more involved in that than just bringing it up at a meeting to see. I mean, again, it's a nice idea, but I don't think it's something that we can really comment on tonight, one way or another, without it really going through more of a process.
Okay, thanks, Dave. David Humphrey, your thoughts, and while you're at it, comment on the whole boatload: logo, string lights, painting, pediment on the thing in the back. You got a list.
Yeah, David Humphrey here. Overall, I think everything looks really nice. I think it's a well thought out and thorough presentation. I do second Dave Riley's comment in the back awning. It's I'm okay either way. I would maybe look at it without that pediment, just, straight across. It might be a little bit more on brand for you, so to speak. Now seeing what your interior rendering looks like. Again, I'm okay with it either way, but I would probably look at it the other way and see what your thoughts are. String lights sound okay to me. I think part of what's going to govern your lighting is just where the existing power is now, because you can't really run extension cords from your space since you're not adjacent to it. So hopefully there's something there that you can use for power. But I think string lights would probably be okay. I guess the other thing with string lights is you're going to need something to run it to, which means you're going to have to pull, which means you may have to put something in the ground, I guess, unless you could string it back and forth across the entire alleyway. One other question, just more of a logistical question. I assume you don't plan to have any kind of delivery to this space, right? Your customers are going to come in, order, get their food, and then, go sit down if they choose to in that alleyway. There wouldn't be any sort of catering to that space. Is that right?
This is Brennan Bronca. I think it was a little hard to hear. Were you saying that? No, it's okay. Were you saying that the ideal situation is for them to call in, order, and then pick up, and then go sit in that alleyway?
Yeah, I was just wondering whether there would be any of your employees traveling back and forth between that alleyway, which might congest the sidewalk a bit if it was just, again, going in, ordering, picking up food, and then if you, want to go eat in that alleyway, you do so.
This is Brennan Bronca again. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a scenario where they would come and sit down in the alleyway when we would come out and take their order, right? Go back and do it, and then go back. No, this is something that it's like a communal sort of space where people can, socially distant, right? But they can gather and reconnect, and they can order whatever they want ahead of time, and then afterwards they could go, or they could wait while their kid is getting a haircut, right? And they can wait, but it's not an outdoor. I'm not going to be serving them outside. There's going to be no back and forth travel at all.
Okay. David Humper here. Yeah, sounds good. I think you've done a nice job adjusting to the current situation in your business. So, good luck with that. I think it'll serve you and also serve the space, the area there, like you said. And I think the painting of the wall, yeah, I agree also. I think that would probably be something that we should have an application with something from the landlord stating that he's on board with it, and the adjacent tenant would be okay with it. And certainly, if you wanted to go beyond that to paint more of the building, that would have to be considered under a separate application. Those are my thoughts on that. And that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, Liz Geiger here. Thanks, David Humphrey. I appreciate that. Last up is Sean Brown. Sean, if you could also, in your comments, also touch on the pediment awning in the back, as well as streetlights, umbrella logo, and painting as part of your overall feedback.
Hey, this is Sean Brown. I agree that the string lights would look good. The pediment in the back, or the awning that runs across the back, I've always been of the opinion that the awning should just be over the doorway. I know the rest of the board had different opinions on that, so I'll go along with that. But I do have a request that the number address be added. If the arch in the awning stays, that the number be added in the door, and put the 879 in the door glass so that it's seen from the backside. I did see in the rendering that the number is in the front door, and it should remain as the 879. As far as the painting on the alley, I think it's an okay idea. I think I do support Dave Riley, Dave Humphrey with a separate application for the painting, and that we should see a rendering and color samples before the final determination is made on that. Otherwise, I agree with all the other comments, and I think it looks great, and I wish them best luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. Okay, to the ARB members that have already gone, Green, Hughes, Leslie, and Marion, If you guys would like to take a quick opportunity, do you have any additional comments to string lights, umbrellas on the logo, an awning without the pediment? Those 3 issues. I think we're clear on the painting, but those other 3 issues, anyone else would like to comment? Allison?
I just go on record. I like the pediment and the awning. That's all.
Marion Castell, I like the pediment in the awning as well, and I like the string lights.
Great, thank you. Sherry?
Sherry Green, I also like the string lights, and I do like the pediment. And I like the idea of painting the wall.
Mhm.
All right, so Brennan, there's a lot going on here, so let me try to recap for you very well what we got here. Overall, you got a favorable report by the board. I think you've done a great job. You and Michael have done a really good job bringing this proposal back to us and really covering the details. Your wall sign looks good. Your blaze sign looks good. Sounds like you've got a majority vote for the awning as is with Bravita and on the pediment of it. You do need to include a street address number in the back. Let me go down my list here. Lighting in the alley. The board all suggests lighting in the alley, but I'd like you to send Dave Keating in Planning and Zoning the proposal of what that would look like and how that will be electrically wired. As Dave Humphrey said on our board, there'll be some sort of post or extension cord, who knows, but we need to see the statistics for that. In addition, you talk about a long-term, a bike rack. That is something, sounds like the board would support. It's a good idea, but I don't know how those logistics would work. You would have to get that actually approved for using that space with planning and zoning. So consider that before you put a bike rack in. As far as painting goes to the building, sounds like the board is open to seeing a proposal like that. You would have to talk with Dave Keating on the logistics of doing a full new application or adding this to your outdoor seating application. With it, you would need to bring paint samples and a rendering of what the building would look like on all 3 sides with that new, with the painting. And that would include trim, colors for your shutters, and the actual wall paint. Lastly, it would be helpful for you to also give us samples for what your final umbrella fabric is going to be and what your samples for what pictures of your chairs and tables. I think board agrees on the look you're going for. We think it's a really nice look. I like the idea of keeping the interior with the exterior, but we actually would need to see what that final product is so we can sign off on it. Again, that is something you can send to Dave Keating along with your string light proposal for us to approve digitally. If you are coming back to have the walls and the exterior painted, though, you could bring those samples and provide those at the meeting, as well as the proposed lighting scheme. Does that sound good, Brennan?
This is Brennan. Yeah, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm going to put this over to Dave Keating in Planning and Zoning. Dave, did I miss anything there that you'd like to add?
This is Dave Keating. Yes, a few things I'd like to add. One would be that the whole layout of this use is going to be subject to the Planning and Zoning Director or the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval. And I will pass on the comments about the 6-foot wide walkway not being interfered with by the planters and maybe stretching it out so that the front to back post road to parking lot dimension gets increased to make sure that there is at least a 6-foot wide awning, a 6-foot wide walkway that's unencumbered. The other thing I'll mention is that the Planning and Zoning Commission has been very consistent on saying that umbrellas and awnings that have logos or names are considered signs. And so they've said no to a number of different requests for that. So there might be a way to have the name on the table surface itself, but not on the awning that would be, or the umbrella that would be visible from the parking lot or the post road. But Brennan and I can talk about that in the office or on the phone. But I think the Architecture Review Board is looking at the concept and the design aspects. And it sounds like you're happy with the front signs, the awnings in the back, the lettering, the signage front and back, and the concept of having the outdoor dining and seating area. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission will have to deal with the details of the layout and the walkway and the bike rack and other things like that.
This
Liz,
guy here, thank you.
this is Sherry Green. I have a quick question about painting the exterior of the building. I don't have a full picture and I'm not in town. So where does the delineation come between Rvu Bd and I guess it's Coldwell Banker next? How would you paint the facade and where's the delineation between the next building? Is it separate? I can't picture that.
This is Brennan Branca. So Rvu Bd, it's that pink building. So we're all the way to the right, and then I think there's 3 stores. There's a haircut place, a nail place, and a Huntington Learning Center in between me, and then there's a Gap, and then there's a Coldwell Banker. So it's just sort of that alleyway.
But how, for the exterior of your building, is there a delineation point that ends your building in the next shop or business? Or is it all one facade? I can't picture it.
I'm confused. I'm sorry. I'm not understanding.
Okay, I just have a picture of your facade. Where does that end and where does the next building begin? So if you paint your shop, the front, which I'm all in favor of doing, a distinctive color, where's the delineation between the next building or the next business rather?
Well, I would paint the entire building. So I've already proposed to the landlord that I would incur the cost of painting the entire building. He's already approved it. I've actually sent him the rendering, so I can just shoot you guys an email.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be so if you see how Heights Pizza across the street, like that building, they just did the entire thing. So
right.
yeah. So I would propose to just do the entire thing in a light historic gray color with black shutters. Yeah, and then I would do the side as well.
So the building would be painted.
Yeah, the whole building. I mean, the whole building needs to be painted. Like it's really, so whoever does it. I mean, but I'll because I'm doing that outdoor, or I want to do that outdoor space, and I'm putting a new spot in there. I thought that it would help bring business to other places as well. And then with regards to the signage, Dave Keating, just one more thing. There is an option to get those cafe barriers, those rectangular barriers engraved. So your logo can be on the cafe barriers, like they can etch it through the metal. So an idea that I had was if I'm gonna have those 2 barriers separating the walkway and the seating space, I can put Rvu Bd logos on those barriers, which aren't technically facing the street. They're sort of they're parallel to my building, so you would really only see it as you were walking in between. So that's another option for providing logo or signage that isn't on the umbrellas. It wouldn't be visible from the street at all. It would only be visible just on those 2, which separates the walkway from the seating. So that's just food for thought. It's just another way you can do it.
Yep, Dave Keating. I'll consider it when I see some kind of drawings or plans or images of what you're talking about, but I can't do stuff like this on the fly. It's got to comply with the regulations, and you can't keep changing things after we've reviewed it and discussed it. This has happened on the interior, on your menu, and now with the architecture review board, you bring up, I want to paint the thing. So it's not fair to us to have you keep on bringing up new ideas at a discussion like this. Let's just stick to the applications, and the architecture review board can act on those, and the painting is a whole new project.
Okay, we can go over the painting in a different application.
All right, Brennan, Liz Geiger here. Thank you again for your applications. Your signs are good. Get back to Dave Keating with exterior painting, with a light schematic, and anything else, bike racks, receptacles, possible logo on umbrellas or your planters. And we will see you again. It sounds like most likely our next meeting. Maybe you can bring all that to us in one nice clear sampling.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get you later. Thank you so much, Brennan. Thank you to Michael.
Thank you. do I sign off now?
You can sign off. Yep. All right, guys. Moving on, we've got ARB number 16 at Darien Place. LLC is doing a presentation for Senna and Cafe Nero awnings. This will be Joe and John Vaccaro. Joe, thank you for being patient and staying on with us. I don't know if John is on. If you guys would like to please introduce yourself, full names, your relation with your company, and what you're proposing. Thanks.
Hi, it's John Vaccaro, principal in Darien Place. My son Joe, who's also a partner with me tonight, and Dan Barnick, who is with New Haven Awning, should be on the call, calling in from his vacation. So with that, that's our team. Fred, you put up the presentation, I see.
Yes, you should see my screen.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. Okay, what we're talking about are adding 2 awnings to the front of the building, one for Cafe Nero and the other one for Senna. Both have been there for quite a while. As we all know, these restaurants all throughout town as well as in the country have been struggling vis-a-vis closing, shutting down, reopening, and only able to use a fraction of their space. So the idea here was, it's really twofold. One is to give them some protected area from the weather, the elements, the sun in particular. There are plenty of times where people might want to sit outside, but the sun is beating on the front of that building, and it's just very uncomfortable. And again, these 2 restaurants have always had outdoor seating since they've opened. So anyway, this would provide a bit more shelter. It should enhance their clientele and the relationship they have with their patrons. Lastly, we think that it adds a little bit of aesthetic charm. It's a little bit of a European flavor to it, creating a true sidewalk cafe. The uniqueness of this building is that we sit very far back off the post road. We're about 23 to 24 feet off the post road, and so there's plenty of space for us to again have this seating capacity outside with the awning. If we want to go to the next slide, there was one other thing I would say also is, again, we've all been pretty conscious of trying to increase downtown pedestrian traffic. I think this sort of enhances that. And so that's also a very good thing. So the first one is Senna. The fabric, you should have samples of the fabric. I delivered them to the town hall. Ms. Geiger, I put some in your mailbox so that you could distribute it to some of the other commissioners. This is unfortunately, the picture doesn't really look like the fabric. The fabric is much more brilliant. It's more of a gray and black with a thin burgundy running through it. It has a repeat pattern, roughly every, I think, 46 inches. And the awning itself would be elevated quite high over the front entryway. The span of it is roughly 32 feet. The length of it's adjustable, but the furthest out point is really about 11.5 feet. If you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, okay. So this was a mock-up as to what it would look like. This isn't real life, but this is essentially what it would look like. I think if we go to the next slide, we can look at Cafe Nero very quickly. Cafe Nero is, again, it's in keeping with their logo, I shouldn't say the logo, but their colors. It's sort of a blue fabric. It's a capri color. And then the valance is in black because their colors are blue and black. Just before you ask the question, none of these awnings will have logos on them. We covered that with the tenants, and so there'll be no logos whatsoever on any of these awnings. Again, the size is about the same. It's about 32. It might be a foot shorter. at Cafe Nero versus Senna, and then it would protrude off the building by about 11.5 feet. Again, it would be truly a true outdoor cafe, as you would think about in one of, again, Paris or whatever. It would be probably the best example. Next slide, Fred. Again, here's a mock-up of what it would look like. Again, there's it just protects the area under and gives them undercover. We did have some awnings there in the past, but all they were really protection from the sun. They were more, I would say, decoration as opposed to being really functional. These are actually functional. Is there another slide, Fred? I don't think so, but I think that's it.
That's it.
All right, thanks so much, John. Liz Geiger here. Thanks so much, John. Joe, I'm guessing that you all set? Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go down board members one by one. Starting off with Sherry and then Marion.
Hi, Sherry Green. I think it looks terrific. I've got the awnings in front of me. I love the fabric for Senna. The two that I have for Cafe Nero is a navy blue and more of a kind of a capri blue. And from what I understand, it's the awning, the down flap would be black, or
The valance, this is John Vaccaro, the valance is black. The local staff likes the capri blue, but it's up to corporate to decide whether they want the capri blue or that little darker blue.
Or the navy. Okay. What are the normal corporate? Because I've loved the idea of the colors that you've had in the past. Is that more of the capri blue?
It depends what the lighting that you're in. We tried to match it to their bags and their cups that they serve and whatnot. And those look a little bit darker blue, but again, the staff there believes it's much more to the capri blue.
Okay.
It's hard to match. It's all, by the way, both products are both made by Sunbrella.
Right. So I don't have the black here. I just have the two blues. I think they look terrific. I think it looks terrific. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. Marion and then Allison.
Marion Castell, I like I think I'll go with the capri blue, the Nero, and I think the Senna looks fine. The black doesn't relate, right? The black sample is what?
John Vaccaro, David Riley is holding up a Cafe Nero cup. If you can see, the bottom of the cup is black. So,
okay.
and that color of the blue on the cup, I can't tell if it's.
There's a color.
Okay.
So
it's the capri.
I like the lighter. Well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the capri.
Yeah. I like that.
And the black is just a sample of Sunbrella.
It would be the same. It would be that, Marianne, it would be that black sample. Yes, it would be this, just for the balance, which is, I don't know what that's about, right. 4 inches.
Right. Okay, that looks good.
Thanks, Marianne. Allison and then Leslie.
Allison Hughes. How do the awnings retract?
We're going to have them motorized so that they can push a button and bring them in or out, rather than the cranking or any of that. I just think that'd be the best way to do it.
Allison Hughes again. And when they retract, what shows on the face of the building? Just the valance?
Just the valance. The best example was Kirby. They had a beautiful awning, and the fabricator of Kirby is New Haven Awning, which is the same group we're using. It was recommended by Baywater Properties, had recommended them, and that's how we got to find them. but it'll be just the valance, and that awning will be sitting fairly high on the face of the building. It sits, I'm going to guess, around 13 feet, and then it drops to about like 9 feet, something like that, 8.5 to 9.
8.5 feet.
Okay.
Allison Hughes again. I think they look great, and I prefer the Capri blue to the Mediterranean blue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Leslie and then Dave Riley.
Leslie McCauley. Allison asked the question that I was going to, and I have, I'm in Canada, so I don't have the samples. I can't make a decision either way. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Hope it's nice up there. Dave Riley and then Humphrey.
Dave Riley speaking. Yeah, I dug that cup out of my trash, but I figured it would be a good visual aid. One question is on the awning for Cafe Nero is like the one at Senna goes all the way across, and the trim, the entablature goes all the way across. However, at Cafe Nero, that trim stops at the entrance. There's an arch, and then it picks up again at the other window, yet you have the awning going all the way across. I'm a little concerned about how that's kind of going to break up or not really read very nicely visually, to have this continuous awning where the facade has these two kind of very distinct built up pieces of trim. Would it be worth considering having them as separate awnings? Kind of like I was actually having coffee there this morning, obviously. Then those small awnings that are currently on there are just, are specific to those windows. I don't think there would be any issue with having that as being two kind of awnings and then the one continuous awning at Senna. Given that they extend in a similar fashion, they'd still relate to each other. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm just
David, it's John Baccaro. We looked at that and we did not go with that. And we realized that the tablature, as you described, does separate in the middle. So we intend on filling that tablature in with an AZAC material to basically it all match. And the reason we went with one solid is because if somebody's serving tables and it starts to rain, then the waitress or waiter, when they come out, the food's going to get wet. Or in the case of Nero, if you're bringing your food out, you're not protected from the rain. So it makes it a little less usable. So the idea was to protect the entrance. So it was the same thinking went into Senna at the time, even though Senna has a tablature that doesn't have that break that you described.
Dave Riley here. Okay, that's I'd be. Is that by extending or joining that trim up? Is that going to obstruct that arch that's over the door? Is that I'm sure it'll be done in a craftsman-like way, but is that going to really change sort of the architecture of that door, and would that need to be filled in any way, or?
No, I don't think it'll disturb it, but we definitely have to create, even for mounting purposes, we have to create something that's solid. So,
Gotcha.
But the awning itself is going to be, if it's completely open, you'll be able to see that whatever the window is there.
Yeah, Dave Riley. Yeah, I agree. Okay, but yeah, the fact that you're addressing the trim, joining the trim up and making that what's the awning is mounted to, having that as a continuous piece, architecturally makes more sense than having it starting and stopping. So,
yeah.
Liz Geiger here. Okay, Dave Riley. That's it. Okay, that's a great catch, and really thoughtful response. You really thought that out already, John and Joe. So thank you. Next up, Dave Humphrey, and then Sean Brown.
David Humphrey here. Just a couple quick questions. First of all, I think it's a very thoughtful idea to create more suitable conditions for people to come in and eat there. Since it's electrical, since it's electric and retractable, what's the plan, do you think, day to day for the awning? Would it be retracted and then come back out each day, or do you think it'll just be permanent for the time being in the extended position? And then I think you may have mentioned this, but I just want to double check. At the maximum extension, what's the height at the front of the awning? I don't know whether that was the 8.5 or 9 feet mentioned, but just wanted to check again.
It's John Farrow, and Dan, you might want to jump in, but it's 8.5 feet in height at the lowest point. And then the idea would be, certainly in the summer, it will be fully extended all the time unless there's a storm coming. In the winter, the tenant may want to put it all the way up. However, if they want to, shade their front windows, they could adjust the awning and extend it out. I'll just pick a, say 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, whatever they think is appropriate to provide shading against the window, from shining in. And I pass it over to Dan. Maybe you want to just talk a little bit about that.
Yes, hi, this is Dan Barnick with New Haven Awning. First of all, the units that we're suggesting are made by a company called Eastern Awning. The model is the Sunflex. Eastern is right here in Watertown, Connecticut. It's the only unit on the market that has an engineered stamp for a wind load. Essentially, the arm has a urethane joint in it that acts as kind of a shock absorber. So a canopy of this size, an awning of this size, can handle a sustained wind of about 32 miles an hour. The motor is a Sumpy motor. It's a tubular motor. It's kind of standard within the awning industry. It comes with a 16-foot plug-in cord. The electrical requirements are minimal, about 3 amps. You can plug it into any wall outlet if you want. Nothing crazy there. It runs off of a remote control, and that can be a handheld remote, or it can be a wireless wall switch if you'd like. That's mounted on the wall inside in case you don't want one of the employees losing the thing. It also comes with a manual override, and what that is, it's a crank on the motor where if it's extended and the power goes out, you can use a wand to roll the thing back in, so it's not stuck out there in a storm. There are a variety of different add-ons if the tenant wanted to put a wind sensor on there, or a little Wi-Fi box so you can control it off your phone, all those kinds of things. But the standard out of the box, it comes with the Sumpy motor, the manual override. You could stop the projection of the awning at any given point along its track, if you will. It has limits set in there, so it will never extend past the 12-foot or 11.6 projection. And when it rolls back in, it stops at its most inner limit as well. The pitch on it is adjustable. We do that in the field at install. So if John wants it at 8.6 to the bottom of the valance, we'll set it 8.6. If you prefer it at 9 feet, we simply make some adjustments on the arm and we raise it up to 9 feet, and we're all set.
Great, thank you for the explanation there.
Okay. Thanks, Liz Geiger here. Thanks, Dave Humphrey. Last up, we have Sean Brown.
Yep, all set.
Okay. Liz Geiger here, John and Joe Vaccaro, and Dan, thank you so much for your presentation. Per usual, it was fantastic and well thought out. I have one question for you, John and Joe. We kind of mentioned this offline, but you guys had suggested possibly doing some sort of lighting as well, particularly to the Senna side. which I thought was a great idea for some evening ambience. Is that the case? Is there lighting there now? Or is that something you guys are, maybe if you're proposing it for the Cafe Nero side, I couldn't remember.
This is John Vaccaro. Well, one of the things they might want to do is have sort of table lighting. You know, like I don't think candles will work because it's outside and the wind could blow out the candle, but some sort of table lighting they might like to create that sort of ambiance. But there is some lighting that when the Senna sign is lit, it actually throws off quite a bit of light. And it'd be pretty easy for us. Remember, they have the outdoor string lights in the, call it the alleyway area where they have the tent today. We could easily wrap those around and put in a little bit more lighting if it's needed. But you also have street lights. So there's actually quite a bit of lighting there. There never was lighting there before. And then, you know, even the lighting from inside the restaurant kind of, you know, does project out on those tables. So if we need a little bit more lighting, it'd be pretty easy to do. When we purchased the building in December, we actually had to replace all the outdoor outlets that supported the string lighting and everything is related to the existing outdoor lighting. I'm just talking specifically about Senna. It was never really wired correctly, and we repaired it all and brought it up to code. Cafe Nero was completely different. It was all code, so there was no repair required.
Okay, got it.
Hey, this is Sean Brown. Wondering if I can make a recommendation that you leave the awning height at full extension at 9 feet. I'm looking at one of the photos here of the current awnings on Senna, and I like it a little bit higher so that the number address can still be seen underneath the awning when fully extended. And I think the extra height will give it, you know, a better feeling underneath instead of it tipping down at such a pitch from what it looks like in the renderings. That's my only comment.
It's John Vaccaro. Dan, I think that's no problem, correct? Just changes
This is Dan Barnes. Yes, no problem. As a matter of fact, the reason why there's such a pitch on the renderings, if I flattened them out a little bit, you really couldn't see the colors. So I had to give a little bit more pitch on the model just so you can see what the top color looked like.
Makes sense.
Okay, Liz Geiger here. That sounds great. Sean, I appreciate that comment. Guys, Joe, John, Dan, thank you all so much for your time. Favorable report. I'll send you a letter, but go ahead.
Liz, can I make a comment, please? Marion Castell. I think that the awnings are going to, they should somehow or other reflect each other and not have different angles and different lengths at all times. It will look disarray a bit. That's what my only thought is on when they're extended, that they should look somewhat even and they should have the same angle from the roof, which they will, I think. But if they're all different, if they're all drawn differently, how tightly it wouldn't have that unity. Just a thought.
It's John Vaccaro. I think the height's no problem. They will be definitely uniform on height. We have to think about how we get both tenants in sync. Your point's well taken. It could look like if one's open and one's closed, it looks a little odd for sure.
Or halfway or whatever.
Exactly. We'll just have to figure out how to get them in sync, and it's probably some sort of coordination between the two. Dan, I don't know if you have any other ideas.
Hey, Sean, just give one of them one remote for both.
Yeah, that's an idea. Put it on my phone and I'll just set them.
There you go.
And I actually would like the app on my phone so that just in case there is a storm, I'd like to basically adjust them myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Liz Geiger here, Marion, that's a great suggestion. John and Joe, I'm sure you guys will mull that over and figure out a great solution. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank
We're moving
you.
on. ARB number 17, 2020, the last application of the night is for Playables in Warm, 1025 Boston Post Road. I believe we have Kate Perez presenting for Baywater along with David Genovese, who must not be that busy if he's here on all these meetings every month.
I'm in the office. I wish. I wish.
If you guys, and maybe Steve Demosky might be with you as well. If you guys could each introduce yourselves and your title and company, and then go ahead in the proposal. Thank you.
Sure. Let me just set this up and make sure you can see it. Can you see that now?
Yes.
Yes. Great. So I'm David Genovese from Baywater Properties, and with me is Kate Perez on my team, as well as Steve Demosky, who's a principal of Playables of Fairfield and soon to be Playables of Darien. So we are here because the store that had been Kirby and Company at 1025 Post Road, as you know, closed. They made that decision pre-COVID-19, unfortunately, closing both Kirby and Company and Kirby Girl. But we were thankfully able to find a couple of new tenants. We worked with you last month on, or a couple months ago on Darien Running Company, and this is a proposal for 2 new tenants and some signage and facade changes, one of which is Playables, a company that Steve can talk more about, but it's a acai bowl restaurant kind of a place that the kids are bananas about. I would tell you that when we posted a coming soon Instagram post, the announcement about Playables got the most likes of anything we've ever posted on our social media, which was an encouraging sign of how people would react to it. They'll take about 2/3 of the space that was originally occupied. Some of you may remember Flowers by June, and after that, Swizzles, which was a frozen yogurt place. To the right, the other third of the space is a smaller store. We're going to redemise this to be the way that it was before. And this space will actually be occupied by a new retailer, something we're very excited about as well, a women's clothing retailer from New York City called Warm New York. The owner of Warm has made the decision to, one of the owners of Warm has made the decision to move to Darien, kind of a pandemic exodus from New York situation. And so he, who can't be with us tonight because he's in Nantucket, he is moving to Darien and wants to open the store with his partner, who's really the creative force of the company, Rvu Bd. This is actually what this building looked like when we bought it, or just before we bought it, which we thought was kind of amazing to show. This is how it evolved with Flowers by June. You can note the old sidewalk. And we just thought it was kind of amazing to reflect upon how much had changed over the last few years. This is what it looked like after we took the Kirby awning down with the seats in front from the Sugar Bowl. And here is basically the proposed changes for Playables and then Warm and Company, or Warm, which I can let Steve walk you through. So Steve, do you want to take it from here? Steve here? Uh-oh.
Sorry, David, I am here.
Oh, okay, good. Hit the proverbial mute was hit situation?
Yes.
No problem.
I actually thought that you were going to be doing the presentation, but I would like to talk a little bit about what we're doing. I'm not sure if everybody here is familiar with Playables. Playables was open, started off in 2014 on the Jersey Shore. We are primarily an acai and smoothie shop. We do have some oatmeal bowls and some juices, all fruit-based product, mostly organic, not 100%, but we try to do as best as we can with the organic stuff.
Steve, I'm just here. I don't mean to interrupt you, but can I ask Dave Genovese and Sherry to go on mute for me as well? When Steve's talking, I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead, Steve. Thank you.
So Playables is a franchise, and there are some franchise rules and restrictions that we have to follow. Some of them that you see here is our coloring, and it's mostly on the inside. You know, most of the stores that we have on the Jersey Shore, but we are expanding. This is the third store in Connecticut, and we're really excited to come to Darien. The typical store is it usually has like a patio or a beach theme to it, and what we're trying to do here is kind of get as much of that as possible and staying contextual in the neighborhood and the surrounding, Main Street, Darien, or shopping district. What we're looking to do here is a simple awning sign. We like the sign that was here before, the awning that was here before. So we're looking to do a simple awning with our logo and name on the front, a nice blade sign with some lighting on it. And just to add some color, to bring our colors out to the front of the building. The awning and the door is in the Pliables blue. And what we're also looking to do is have some outdoor seating. And we don't want to do the typical table seating. What we want to do is have the windows operable and have a bar type seating, a nice thick piece of wood to allow some seating on the outside of the bar and on the inside. That's really it. I mean, I don't know that you guys want to talk about the interior, hear about the interior, but on the outside, we're looking to do, we're trying to be contextual. We're trying to stay in the flavor of the downtown Darien area. And I think the rendering shows something that could really enhance the area.
Steve, I should just point out too to the board. So this is the architecture review board, totally focused on the exterior, but we're going before planning and zoning next week to talk about the outside seating and the use as well. So just that's happening next week.
Yep.
Should I touch on warm as well?
So, sorry, Liz Geiger, Dave and Steve. Okay, so let me just make sure I'm clear. So for Pliable specifically, the western side of the building, blue awning, sunbrella fabric to match the company blue, painting the door to match that same color fabric, and then painted on this on the fabric the logo and name of the company. Correct?
Correct.
You have a size of what the size of those letters are?
Yeah. Fred, are you seeing my screen or your screen up there? I can't tell.
We see your screen, David.
Oh, you do? Okay, so do you see that now?
Right.
All right, hold on. So the logo is, or the letter height is 6 inches. And then there's the Pliables logo in between it, which is 9 inches high. And it's all within the allowed, well within the allowed signage area.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave.
There is actually, I'm sorry, Liz, I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing I forgot to mention, there's a blade sign also proposed, which I'm now showing you, which we would like to incorporate blade signs for this use and for warm. And then I'm going to give you guys a rest from the Baywater presentations and come back to you in the fall with a Greaves Pharmacy blade sign. But basically, this is the blade sign for Pliables that we propose. And what we're proposing is sort of a pen light above it to illuminate it. It wouldn't be, it would be exterior illumination, but 2 small pencil lights to basically illuminate the blade sign only.
And my last question there, that's hanging from, it looks like just a simple metal bracket.
Correct.
Okay. Terrific. Okay. Let's continue with warm. So when we go through our comments, we can do both at once.
Great. I'm just showing you a couple of images also of the interior of Pliables and what the vibe will look like. It's sort of got a beachy feeling, which actually goes quite well with the proposal from Warm. Warm is a women's clothing store. They have some of their own designs, and then they sell some other product. But the store itself, Winnie Beatty grew up in St. Louis and somehow ended up spending a lot of time as a kid in Hawaii as a big surfer. Apparently she eats a pliable every day. So when she found out that pliables could be next door to her new location, she was very excited. But this is basically, and I'm a little colorblind, so Kate may have to help me here, but this is basically what they call a digital print gradient. So it's like an orange fading to red or red fading to orange sign. It's 6 inches by 26 inches. Again, well within the amount of signage that we're allowed. And we also propose here a building sign and then a blade sign that's all within the signage allowances.
Great, and it looks like you've got matching brackets on the two.
Correct. For this building, we thought we'd match them and maybe do something different with Grebes, but that'll be another application.
That was going to be my question, so you're all over it. Thanks, David. Okay, anything else, or can I open? Oh, go ahead with the door. Is vinyl lettering just on warm or on both doors?
Actually on both, so that's warm. And I skipped it mistakenly on pliables, and that's pliables.
Okay. All right, if you're okay with, I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. Thanks, David, and Steve. First up, Sherry Green, then Marion.
I think it all looks terrific, and congratulations on bringing in 2 new exciting businesses into town.
Oh, thank you. We're really, really excited. We've been talking to Steve and his partner Jared for, I think, about 18 months. My kids led me to Fairfield, and this was really like Shake Shack. This was their idea, but I love it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I can't wait. Thanks for bringing them in.
Thanks, Sherry. Marion?
Marion Castell. I think it's a great idea having them here, but what bothers me right off the top is that you have pliables with a green pineapple, you know, green and the yellow, and you've introduced this blue, and it seems to me the blue should relate to your colors, and you have a beautiful green there. You've got other things, and I don't know why you just introduced a blue out of nowhere. And then I also was wondering about the umbrellas. Shouldn't they relate also and give a whole unified effect somehow or other? They're introducing a whole nother color.
Oh, but Marion, to be clear on the, it's David Genovese here. The seating that you see in front of the store today, if you're referring to the umbrellas on those chairs, those are not to stay. Those are actually for the Sugar Bowl right now, as we agreed to kind of help them. So those will go away. The only seating, there'll be no umbrellas on the post road. The only seating will be along this bar on the inside of the window.
Okay.
So those are temporary. Those are there just to help the Sugar Bowl during this COVID pandemic.
In terms of the awning, it's a lovely color, but I think it should relate to the colors of Pliable.
Those, if I could, the blue is the color of pliables. We have a few different colors that are the franchise, or I want to say corporate colors, and that blue is the primary color. If you look at probably 90% of the pliables that use colors on their either the front sign or awnings or anything similar, unless there was a requirement by the ARB and the municipality that they were working in. Every sign is usually a blue, or the front elevation is a lot of blue in it.
Is the Pliable signs that use blue have blue in their signs?
No, there's not. Yes,
all right. All right. It's
yeah.
just it's my personal reaction. I don't think it talks to each other. That's all.
Okay. Fair.
It's a whole different tone. The blue is bright. It's a very different tone. It's not the same music. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thanks, Marion. I appreciate your input here. Okay, next up, Allison and Leslie.
Allison Hughes here. My only comment is the extra copy on the blade signs, the hashtag goals deep, and the shopwarm.com or whatever it is, warm.com. I think it appears that that is probably not allowable by our codes, correct? Dave?
Just the blade sign, when it says Go Bulls D, that's been changed. I apologize, this is an old logo, but what it says is now Welcome to Pineapple Land, which is kind of a staple in our stores. So it's Welcome to Pineapple Land. I apologize for that. I can send up the new logo to the board.
Liz Geiger here. Allison, you've got a good point. You can continue that train of thought there and open it to the rest of the board, Allison.
I'm sorry, Liz, did you ask me a question? Allison Hayes.
Yeah, no, Liz Geiger, I mean, no, Allison, you bring a good point. You can continue that thought there. The same idea you're going with applies, I understand applies to this as well. And I'm sure you're going to bring it over to the warm sign as well. So
Exactly. I just wanted to point that out. Other than that, I think it looks very good.
All right, thanks, Allison. Liz Geiger here. I'll ask the other board members to weigh in on those comments for both blade signs where they do have extra copy beyond just their logos. So next up is Leslie and then Riley.
Leslie McCauley, I just wanted to confirm, there's a bunch of different images, and again, I apologize, I don't have the hard copy, but in the facade, there's a street tree missing between the two stores. Wanted to make sure that that wasn't disappearing in one of the images that you sent.
That may just be, if there's a street tree missing, that's a sort of Photoshop or rendering thing. There's no intention to remove any street trees as part of this. And I'm sorry, this is Kate Perez from Baywater Properties.
Leslie McCauley, thanks, Kate. Also, I don't see any lighting on the warm sign or on the warm blade sign or anywhere like over the door.
They didn't request any signage, any lighting rather, and so we weren't planning on putting any at this time.
Okay, that's all.
Leslie, did you have any comment about the extra verbiage on the blade signs?
It doesn't match with, Leslie McCauley, it doesn't match with the other signs in town. However, it is progressive, and this is what kids are doing these days, is looking at the internet for sales. So it would just be something new, I suppose, which wouldn't have existed in 2008 or 2007.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Dave Riley and then Dave Humphrey.
I apologize. I got a little distracted during the presentation. I personally don't have any exceptions to what's being proposed, and I missed comments. We had a lost cat in the house. So without any further input, I don't have any exceptions to the presentation.
The most important question is, did you find the cat?
Found the cat. The cat was in the basement. And
okay.
Everybody is safe, okay?
Okay, good.
Girls, that's enough. All right, thanks.
Moving on, Dave Humphrey and then Sean Brown.
David Humphrey here. Just wanted to confirm one thing related to the awning. One of the renderings, it looks like there's a side to the awning. On another one, it looks like it's open. I know that's how Kirby and Company's sign, it was open on the side. So is it open or is it closed?
This is Kate Perez from Baywater. I can speak to that. So the intention is to have open sides to the awning because there's a cornice, midway up the facade that we thought the detail, could be a little funny if we tried to to have the sides with the fabric there. So we thought an open frame allowing that cornice, you know, so that there wouldn't be an interaction with the cornice would probably be the cleanest way to go about it. So apologies if there's sort of conflicting images here, but the intention is the open side of the awning.
Okay, David Humphrey here. Yeah, that's why I asked, no problem. I figured that would be complicated if you had a side to it. So easier with it open. I agree that whether it's a hashtag or a website or a phrase on the signage, I believe that goes against with our typical sign regulations. I think that can be put on the door, but not the sign itself. So I agree with that comment. That would be something that shouldn't be on the actual sign. And then lastly, I just wanted to ask about how the operable window will actually operate. It's quite large, and you have a counter there to deal with as well. So I don't know whether that's fully thought out. It sounds like that's something that has to go to the zoning, but if you do have a plan there, it would be good just to understand that.
So yeah, we have thought about it, and we've a few of the pliables do have a similar window and opening, and a few other restaurants that I've worked on have the same kind of detail. Where what we're looking to do is from the bar height to the underside of the transom windows, we're going to try to get a piano hinge across the top of it. And they're going to open up like kind of like an awning window, but they're going to open into the store. And we're not sure if we're going to motorize them or if they're going to be on a cable to like manually pull chain operate. But that's what our intention is. We're trying to work with a storefront vendor to make it look as natural as possible. There's going to be some gasket seals, obviously, for weather protection, but we're going to try to do all that from the inside. So from the outside, we're going to try to keep that clean look of the storefront itself. But they're operable, and they're not going to stick out beyond. They're not going to stick out to the outside at all.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Obviously, an important function right now. So
yep.
Hopefully they'll work it out. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Dave Humphrey. I'm going to note with Liz Geiger here. I'm going to note one thing. Steve, before you speak every time, if you could state your name for the record, please.
Yeah.
All right, and then last we have Sean Brown, which we all, I know you're going to have one comment for us here, Sean.
This is Sean Brown. I have a question for Dave Genovese. You have the address number on the right door, which is 1025. Do you plan to put an address like 1025A, 1025B on either warm or pliables? Or is the whole building address 1025?
David, you're on mute.
Apologies. The building address, David Genovese here. The building address is 1025/1029 Post Road. The office tenants, I think I have this right, use 1025 as their address, the second floor tenants, and the first floor tenants generally use 1029 as their address. I think that's correct. I'm double checking. Bear with me. It's a little confusing down there. Yeah. Pliables is actually using 1025, and warm, bear with me. Should know this, but I don't. Steve might know. Steve may remember.
I think this is Steve Dubofsky. I think David last we spoke was pliables was 1029, next door was 1027, and upstairs is 1025.
Yeah, let me just confirm. No, we didn't even specify for warm. So I think what's on there now, my eyes aren't very good here in reading this. Let me just check one thing. Kirby is using, or was using 1029. So the leftmost side, and 1025, I think what I said first is what has been happening. 1025 would be the office tenants.
Dave Genovese, Liz Geiger here. You do have 1025 nicely printed fixed letters over the stairs going up to the second floor there.
Yeah, that's the office.
1029 and 1027 respectively for play and warm. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's probably right.
Sean, you want to keep going with that train of thought?
Okay, this is Sean Brown again. So David, I might make a recommendation that you put, in the matching font and color, the number in the top of the door for warm, 1027, and then 1029 over the logo, or somewhere on the door for pliables.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I think that would be fine.
And then this is Sean Brown again. And then my other comment is I concur with Dave Humphreys in that, and the others that have said it, is that the hashtags and the web pages are not permitted on the signs and should be put on the, in the door or the windows.
Steve Demovsky, David Genovese here. Could you live with that if we got rid of the "Welcome to Pineapple Land" and just put it on the door?
This is Steve. We'd like it on there because it's consistent with all the corporate stores, but if it's a requirement from the town, we'll be okay with it.
And then I think I can speak for warm that we could allow the same. We could take it off the warm sign as well.
This is Sean Brown again. Dave Keating, my quick question to you is, on the blade sign for pliables, is established 2014 something that should be on the door, or should it be permitted on the sign?
I think if it's part of the, I'm sorry, Dave Keating, if it's part of the logo, I think it would be okay to include on the blade sign. It's not advertising per se. It's not a catchphrase. So either way would be okay with the regulations.
This is Sean. Then I would concur to leave it if it's okay.
Okay, Liz Geiger here. Thanks, Sean. David, Steve, terrific presentation. You guys did a great job. Favorable report. There's those two small amendments here. Removing the hashtag and the website from those two places on your blade sign. David Genovese, for you specifically, if Warm is proposing any lighting, let us know. I think that could just be a simple electronic approval. I would assume it would mirror what you have on 1029's building. And then the last recommendation was to add the addresses on the doors or above the doors.
Okay, can I just go back to one question of David Genovese speaking here? If the "Welcome to Pineapple Land" is part of the logo for pliables, are they allowed to leave that?
Yeah, if it is part of the lockup,
logo.
Yes.
Okay.
The logo lockup.
So Steve, is that, I mean, as far as you're aware, is that the logo, the new corporate logo?
This is Steve. Yeah, it is.
So we'll take it, we would take it away for Warm because I know that's okay with them. And that's not part of their logo. It's just something they would like to have. They don't need to have it. But if it would be acceptable to the commission, we'd like to keep it on the blade side for Playa.
Yeah, Liz Geiger, again, if that is the lockup and part of the logo, it is. If you're adding it on, Steve, and because it's something you like and it's just something that you want to start including in your logo, that's a different story. I mean, we're pretty stringent about this in town. People want to do this all the time. There's usually always an extenuating circumstance. So I'll put you to task and have you be honest. If it's your logo or not your logo. We'll go up to Fairfield County and we'll take a look and we'll look at your website and we'll make sure it's part of it.
Come on out for a free bowl up in Fairfield.
All right, how about you treat us to a bowl and we'll be there. Okay, sorry.
It is, in all honesty, it is that exact sign right there. they just changed it about a year ago to Welcome to Pineapple Land, and that's untouched. That's the logo.
Okay. All right, Liz Geiger here. That sounds great. Sounds good. So just the one adjustment to warm and the street address.
Okay, very good.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you all
Thank
so
you,
much.
Kate. Steve, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone.
All right, ARB members are, that was the final application of the night. We do now have I'm sorry, I know it is 8:52. Let's make this brief, but I need to discuss with you Darien's downtown street plan outside of the CBD zone. Let me give you a brief background of what that means, and I'm going to have Leslie take it over. So as you know, right now, in our last meeting, I brought up to you the landscape proposal that were what the Darien Tree Commission and the Revitalization Commission had put together over the last 10 years in order of how our downtown should be landscaped. Now, taking that plan a step further, we're now starting to approve these different projects down from the Post Road. So specifically, is it like the Vaquero Brothers projects up there around Roost, and now his latest proposal, they are giving us landscape plans. And the question comes up, does the landscape plan that we have approved and decided on to establish in the central downtown of Darien also apply up the road on the Post Road? And as Leslie pointed out to me, it's a different perspective. In downtown Darien, you have taller buildings. You have it might call for a different kind of landscaping. Up further the Post Road, you have two-story buildings. They're smaller. You have a little more room, a little more sidewalk space. So Leslie, do you want to kind of take that over, do your overview, and then we'll have the board all take a vote on what we think?
Thanks, Liz. Liz and Macaulay, I think you did a great job. You said everything I was going to say. I think we have, do we keep status quo with everyone putting in the trees that they want? And I'm, again, going back to the Vaquero Brothers where it's down by Mama Carmela's. The existing two lists, the street tree and the parking lot tree lists, weren't intended, they weren't designed for the greater Post Road. They were really just intended for downtown. So do we keep status quo? Do we apply these recommendations, the two lists for the street trees along Post Road and parking lots past the central business district, or do we create new lists?
Liz Geiger here. Leslie, since you're the resident expert here, can you maybe share your opinion? Because I think that would help us kind of understand what an expert thinks of this before we kind of weigh in.
Sure, Leslie Macaulay. So the existing street tree list is 6 trees and 1 gateway tree, and then the parking lot trees, there are 19. So I don't know if we want to keep the parking lot list the same as it is, because there are 19 trees on it, and then maybe add to the street tree list, which is 6. And the reason why there are only 6 is because downtown you have CLNP lines on one side and then the opportunity for a taller tree on the other. But I needed to keep the 2 canopies uniform depending on what of the 6 trees you use. Because that problem doesn't exist on the outskirts of town, you have greater use of trees. So we could add to the existing street tree list beyond the central business district and keep the parking lot tree list the same.
Wait, sorry, recap that last thing again. You would do, sorry. It's been a long day. We say that last sentence again, you would do what?
So we could augment the existing street tree list that was only for downtown Darien to include
zone.
Maybe it's 5 more trees. I think as a board we would have to say how many more trees it would include. Currently it's, and then what I would suggest is keep the parking lot trees that is for downtown. I would keep it for the rest of the Post Road as well.
Okay, awesome, Leslie. Members, at one at a time, I don't know if you guys want to raise your hand or have opinions about this. Support, don't support, have suggestions. Marion?
It's hard when we don't have a list of the trees and we don't understand what's involved. and and do the locations. I wonder whether it would be easier to have something framing it visually. But I'm wondering, in let's say the parking lot trees, do they have evergreens? Or don't you want something year round? And what kind of evergreens are they? Say, I'm just blank because I don't have any lists or any
I have
information.
a list on my computer that I can screen share. I don't know if that helps or doesn't help.
Well, I mean, philosophically, perhaps Leslie could tell us. I mean, you want something that blooms? You know, there's all kinds of requirements you have to have for street trees. You know, it might be interesting to explain what they are, but they should. I think the idea of having trees that relate to each other on the central part of Darien that's so close together is important. But I've also been told that the trees that they chose don't work well. And so it's hard to understand for someone that doesn't have this background. But maybe if you could show a little bit and sort of show what the reasons are behind them. You know, you want something to bloom, you want something you want something that will hold color in the winter, or what do you want? What do you need in a town? I mean, right now we have trees that are great because they have beautiful blooming flowers under them, all in the center part of Darien, and you really don't notice the trees because that's kind of the element. And so you need a tree that will deal with those flowers, not compete with it. So I'm just asking questions. I'm sorry, I just don't have enough information to understand.
So I have the list in front of me on my phone for the parking lot trees, and there are there's dogwoods, maple, eastern red cedars, sweet gums, another fir. There's really a mix of evergreen, deciduous, Japanese tree lilac. So you've got flowers, pear trees, which also flower.
Is that the idea, Leslie, to have sort of combine as many as possible, or is it idea to have sort of a theme? When you put together a parking lot, do you want everything to match somehow or other? What's the philosophy behind it? You want shade in the summer, I think, maybe. I don't know. And I don't know what other requirements there are.
Leslie McCauley, I think it's important. It's very site dependent. So if you look at the sports shop, they can handle really large evergreen trees, whereas behind John Vaccaro's sites, they can't handle large evergreen trees.
Yes.
So the night trees are supposed to be, you can shop from it depending on what your needs are. But what I'm saying is for the street trees, maybe we add more street trees once you leave the central business district.
Yeah, so you're saying, oh, go ahead, Sherry.
I have a comment, Sherry Green. It sounds like with the newer area down toward St. John's, that's more of a question of scale and proportion. Am I hearing this correctly? That you can that's the consideration, is the proportion of the trees. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the streetscape.
Right. I think what Liz and I were talking about after John Vaccaro's presentation is technically those trees that he was saying were along the post road. And Liz and I were talking, is that something that we should now be considering as more businesses are starting up along the downtown or along post road? So it's a different proportion and scale over by John Vaccaro's rather than what it is in downtown.
Right, I understand that. So I don't know what that means in terms of choices.
So I think I'm going to sum it up sorry, I'm gonna sum it up, Liz Geyer here. It's just taking that list of 6 trees that originally is allowed for CBD zone. Let's ignore the parking lot. Parking lot has 19 trees anywhere we go. I don't think we need to expand that. 19 trees is a huge list. I think we can keep that pretty much all through Darien. We don't need to be adding 25, 30 trees in our parking lots. So we're only talking about street trees. There are only 6 allowed street trees in our downtown district zone. And what Leslie I think just proposed is maybe we open that list up when you get out of downtown. Instead of 6, we do 10 trees or 12 trees outside that CBD zone. So I think we should agree on that. And if we do agree on that, then Leslie could come back to us with a list of an additional 6 trees she thinks would complement the original ones that are there right now. What do you guys think?
Sounds reasonable. I think that sounds good. I would leave it up to Leslie to bring that back to us.
So Liz Geyer here. So you guys like the idea of when you leave the CBD zone, which is David Genevieve's, is, all the main part Darien, when you leave that and start going down up Post Road or towards Brookside or towards Norotan Heights, that tree list opens up a bit? You guys are all in favor of that part of the proposal?
Yes.
This is Sean, I concur.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, Leslie, how about you leaving this meeting, add a few trees, I don't know, 3 to 6, whatever you think is accurate, and send us, you can send me an email or blast the group, the 2 lists. Parking lot trees, so everyone sees what all the parking lot is, current downtown street trees, expanded downtown street tree list.
Will do.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys. The last thing I have on here, it's not really group discussion. This is between more me and Dave Keating, but he and I are kind of going to revisit the application and the process for an application and kind of establish a checklist of items that we need to see for an application to get through here. I think I've done you guys a disservice by letting some applications come through. I haven't really been as strict in saying all the pieces aren't here, we're not going to review this. So a lot in the past, we've gotten applications that I would say aren't complete. So if it were a building, a full renovation for a building, we haven't required, say they have to have a streetscape, photos of the neighbors, elevations, survey. I want to put together a list like that and revisit our application for renovation and just for signs of those elements they need to see. But I guess opening this up to you guys is off the cuff. Can you guys name any items that you would like to see that you think are essential when an application is coming in, whether it be for a sign or for a full building renovation that we should include on that list?
David Humphrey here. Potentially photos of adjacent properties so we can get a full picture. Sometimes we just get a picture of the property for the application, but oftentimes it's important to look at what the adjacent properties look like as well.
Great. Who else? Thanks, Dave.
Sherry Green, I agree with David. I think it's really helpful to see the whole surrounding area and the adjacent properties, so you get a feeling of, the continuity that you're trying to agree on.
Okay.
Hey, this is Sean. This is Sean Brown. May I make a recommendation, Liz, that maybe we go back and look at one of, I can't think of his last name, Bob, the attorney who presents on behalf of some of his clients. Always comes in with a very, thank you. He always comes in with a very complete book, presentation booklet, and he's done different size projects, and he's always been able to completely and comprehensively address a lot of the questions we don't ask. But I think the basics on the checklist are a good starting point. One of the things I watched Dave Humphrey do on occasion when we were sitting in the room together was he'd pull up his iPhone and he'd pull up Google Maps and the streetscape, which and be able to pass it around. And I think that goes back to the adjacent property views. And I think that's very helpful. I think the other thing on recommendation that Liz, you and I spoke about earlier today was that, as far as Bar Vita as an example tonight, where they just kept going off track, Dave Keating brought it up. I think we need to go back to, for all of our benefits, we're all volunteers. We're doing this because we feel like it's our good civic duty for the town of Darien. And I think that, for all of us, if we follow the regulations, we follow the rules, we follow our checklist, then we can throw these people out of the room and say, come back next month. It's not under us to be under duress because they're missing their deadlines and their timelines. And I think if there's a good checklist, I think it's to our benefit, and we work through them very quickly because they've checked the box on all those things. So I'm in total agreement of that.
Awesome. Love it, John. Thank you. Leslie, Allison, Marion, anyone else want to jump in?
Leslie McCauley, if I could ask for a lighting plan and a landscape plan and a sidewalk plan, if they're going to do the model sidewalk.
Allison
Leslie,
Hughes.
Sorry, one question there. Leslie, you'd like a sidewalk plan if it's a model sidewalk or just in general you want?
Yeah.
In general.
What kind of sidewalk?
Okay.
Yeah.
Allison?
Liz, I think we should include material samples and color samples.
Terrific.
Liz.
Okay. Anything else, Marion?
Well, I think we've covered a lot, and a lot of them were already on the application. We were supposed to bring in photographs. We always were, and we were always supposed to bring in samples, but we should reemphasize it, perhaps.
Marianne, a question for you about that. For some of these buildings that are historic, like Rvu Bd that just came through, that's a building I know that was done in the, I believe that was a 19th century building originally, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's down the street. But I guess my question there is for some of these buildings, if it is historic, or should we be requiring them to bring in some sort of history or doing some sort of research with Museum of Darien to kind of present their building? Or is that really stretching it?
I think it would be a great idea. Frankly, I think it would give us a lot of interesting perspective. That was a very important block that was built in the late 19th century, where Rvu Bd is. And then we have the Old Town Jail was in the corner by Post Corner. I think it's helpful that they do that. And there are a lot of pictures. It wouldn't be too hard to get it from the Historical Society.
Okay.
I agree with Allison Hughes. I agree, Marion. That's very important, I believe.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't want to jump. I'm trying to move things along, but I'd love any input. Let's do it now while we're here. Keating, the mastermind behind it all, you good?
Dave Keating. Yes, I've been taking notes, and I owe it to the board to get a revised, updated checklist. I'll try to do a draft out to the board, and then you can comment on the rough draft, and then we can continuously update that prior to the next meeting. If anyone has any thoughts between now and then in the next few days, just email me and I'll add those things to the list.
Marion Castell, I think that you have a very detailed list here already.
Mm-hmm.
No, I really think it's really a question of maybe how to organize it so you can look at it more closely. Like there's so much detail with the sizes and the types and the colors. It's hard to look at it together. Maybe it should be grouped a little bit visually. I'm talking about because if you really read it, you've got a lot of detail here, and it covers a lot. But I don't know. Maybe something would happen. I don't know what you do. You can have distances all together somehow or other, make it easier to read. And lighting plan comes up all the time, so but that's in here, I'm sure.
I have a comment, Sherry Green. What kind of consequences are there for the applicants when they just present a partial application? Do you ask them to come back? Do you throw it back out? Or something like Modern, whatever that was, Modern Living, who never came to us, never what are the consequences for people who just aren't following your directions?
Dave Keating, we always try to work with people. We bend over backwards whenever we can. We extend deadlines. We tell them at least to get the basic of the application in and then supplement it prior to when we're going to send out the materials to the ARB members. Sometimes we get that material, sometimes we don't. So I think the fact that we're discussing it now, we're going to redo the list, makes it easier for me to say in the coming months to the applicants, if you don't do this, don't expect to be discussed at the meeting.
It has to
It just makes it easier for us to emphasize they need to do their homework.
Right. Must make, I mean, I just feel like you go around in circles with some of these applicants.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, Liz Geyer here. Sure, I feel the same way. And I feel like I told Dave he could blame me if we kind of force the hand here and say, okay, if you don't have this checklist, I don't have to tell you, you can't go in front of the ARB. This is the policy. So it just kind of makes it not emotional, just it's the fact, the lay of the land here.
Yes, I agree, because it's making you guys berserk.
Yeah, all of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Allison Hughes here. What about the application that's kind of wants to come in concept only? We've done a little bit of that. Would there be room for any of that? If somebody is considering buying a building, for instance, and wants to know what would be appropriate to do with it?
Marion Castell, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, Liz Geiger, as we do an informal application, or we say like an informal discussion, I think is what we call those.
Marion Castell, I think, again, I think that it's amazing how when you start with an idea, it's so much easier than after they've already put it all in place. And if it's an important area, I think it would be wonderful to be able to get some feedback on some of these applications.
Allison, besides the money they can expend, developing these applications sometimes can be burdensome for some businesses.
One thing I was thinking is that there's so much detail about size and everything that you need to fill out for records, but maybe there should be a section about what you have to bring in separately to the architectural board and describe exactly what it is, the samples and a lighting plan, and separately from all these 12 different things that maybe they look at that and they say, okay, I have to bring this with me, and they might be more likely not to forget some of those details if it's put separately.
I like that, Marion. That's great.
Tonight, just Sherry Green, tonight I found it very, very helpful to have the samples of this umbrella fabrics. It just makes it so clear. It leaves nothing to the imagination. I think samples, paint colors, any of that, the more detailed they can be, just makes our job easier.
Yeah, the visual part is important. When you look at the application, it's just numbers of distances. You don't have any visual things. And they were always supposed to have brought that. From the very beginning, over the years, we're supposed to bring in samples. It's just that they forget. But if you have a box somewhere, then maybe they won't. I don't know.
Right.
This is Sean Brown. This is Sean. Why don't we just make a recommendation to ourselves, or a new policy for ourselves, that if the application is not complete, it becomes a concept discussion, and there will be no favorable, no disfavorable. It will be pushed to the next month. And the other thing I think that we ought to do is, I'm just using Bar Beta because it was this evening's discussion. I mean, it rambled, and I'm looking at my notes. It took up a whole page when it really was only 5 bullet items on it. And I think that's really what we're here to help, from Marion's point of view, is that we're here to help them in concept, but then we're here to approve based on what our feelings are for what that particular area of Darien is and what it's, acceptable to, and also to guide us on what precedent is and what we're not going to permit going forward, because you know how you go. You let somebody slide in a little bit, then somebody else pushes the door further open. And I think that we just sit back and just be hard to ourselves, or true to ourselves, that you don't have a complete application, you don't get an approval or disapproval. Sorry. and, you know, it's not up to us to complete your application or to provide the materials or to, you know, bring up the discussion. So I kind of go back to, you know, the discussions I like are the ones Bob brings to us in the binder in the book, and everything you can possibly imagine is in there with all the questions pre-answered. It makes for a very different discussion than for those who really don't know what they want. And I think we just follow our own guidelines and stick to it. So
Yeah, Liz Geiger.
those are my comments.
I'm going to take that one step further, Sean, but just say that I'm not even going to, I don't think I'd want Dave to send us any applications that aren't complete unless they say it is for an informal discussion as part of the application, and they could, I don't know how you want to write that up, Dave, or if that's a box they literally check, or it's something that's done as a stamp item across the whole application. But I think informal discussion, they don't have to have those things, and we could hopefully be a guidance, and that would be great to have more informal discussions. It would keep people from going up the wrong track a lot of times. But if it is an actual application that needs approval, don't even waste our time unless you have X, Y, Z in that.
Marion Castell again. There could be a danger if you keep opening the, give me your first thoughts. You know, everyone might say, oh, goody, I'll do that. It could double your work. I think we have to, it's a good idea, but we have to control it a little bit.
We're not getting approval, remember, Marion. If they want to discuss stuff with us, they're still not getting,
You get a lot of people coming in for discussion and taking a lot of time, you know, but you have to make sure that perhaps Dave would be the one who sees them first, and he might be able to make a judgment about, oh, this is just beginning of an idea, but maybe you should bring it now. But if someone comes in and just wants to get our input right away without anything really formed, that would be wasting time, perhaps.
Okay. I like it. To Dave Keating's discretion in the end.
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay, anything else?
Okay, great. You want to approve our minutes or something?
Sorry, I thought Dave Keating was about to
They're
say
great minutes.
Okay, yeah, approval of minutes. Can I have a vote of approval or support or
Approved.
Okay, that's aye.
Allison, good. Great. All right, the minutes have been, minutes from June are approved unanimously. So that commences
Terminates.
That ends the meeting. I'm sorry, I'm lost. 9:19 p.m. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys so much.
Okay.